Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. Right before we jump into the content, I want to give a few of the folks that may be logging in just a few minutes late time to get set up. And while we're doing that, I'd just like to get just a brief idea of where everyone's logging in from. So if you could just on your control panel there, just kind of give me an indication of where you're logging in from. Looks like there's Joe in New York. Looks like we've got Steve in Chicago. A couple of folks in North Carolina. Fantastic. Looks like we've got a strong representation in the Pacific Northwest as well. A few folks in Seattle and in the Portland area. Great. Excellent. That's good to know. Um, Let's go ahead and get started. Today's webinar, again, is on branding, specifically for the legal and financial services professional. And what we'd like to do is provide you a quick overview of personal branding, the concept around personal branding, and really discuss and present some thoughts around if is this the right strategy for solo practitioners like yourself. Today's webinar is brought to you by the Dynamic Biography. So after we talk about some of the concepts around personal branding, we want to introduce you to the Dynamic Biography, and then also talk to you about a very attractive offer, followed by some questions and answers. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ty Johnson, of course, and I am joined by my partner Chuck Wilnick. Just a little bit of information about our backgrounds. I started my career in technology sales and marketing. I worked for some Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 organizations, managing technology, selling technology products and services to small and medium-sized businesses, both domestically and abroad. Recently, my most recent stint was working for one of the largest web hosting providers in the world, and I was tasked with selling and delivering web enablement services to small and medium-sized businesses throughout the country. And those services included social media marketing and other marketing, security, and web management services that small businesses required to increase and improve their web presence. I am also joined by my partner, Chuck Welnick. Chuck has a very extensive background in the art of persuasion and demand generation. He has focused in the past 10 years, he's been focused on working with professional service advisors, consultants, and attorneys alike in helping these individuals and their practice create demand from a digital perspective. Chuck also has an extensive background in the telecom industry, where he served in various roles from Chief Information Officer and CTO with various telecom organizations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Chuck. Chuck's going to talk a little bit about the concept of personal branding, and is this relevant to you and your specific practices. So I'm going to hand it over to Chuck, and Chuck's going to pick it up from here.
Well, thanks for that introduction, Ty, and thanks to all of you that are on the call today. So let's get started. All of us in the professional services space possess a unique marketing challenge. The fact is that few attorneys can stimulate demand. Alternative fee arrangements notwithstanding, you can't offer a businessman special on M&A work or a reduced rate if you act now on that divorce you're contemplating. You're needed only when you're needed. Moreover, the financial planners and those in the insurance field on this call are no doubt frustrated by those putting off planning and protection when they really shouldn't be. And the consumer has an unprecedented access to choices. Now, let's face it, you wouldn't have hung the shingle if you didn't believe that you were the best choice, but the fact is your competition is just as credentialed and qualified as you are. And time, well, it's your most precious commodity. You don't get paid for business development, but you won't get paid without it. You know, the rule of thumb is that you have to spend about 10% of your time, and this means billable hours time, in rainmaking activities. And this applies to those working for a firm where they can leverage the firm brand and the marketing department if there is one. So there you are. It's all up to you as a solo practitioner, getting the client and serving the client. For those of you that watched our video on personal branding, recall Tom Peters coined this term decades ago. Now, I'm not going to go over that in detail again, but if you want to look at it, you can go to the dynamicbiography.com/brand. Again, that's dynamicbiography.com/brand. But here's something really interesting. Take a look at the number of entries that are returned when you Google personal brand. It's well north of 250 million, almost 300 million. You know, it's become culturally ingrained, but our view that has sort of jumped the shark. You know, its creative evolution declined long ago. Yet it gets all those searches, and certification has become a cottage industry. Recall that there are three components to personal branding: passion, uniqueness, and a memorable tagline, or PUT as I like to say. You know, passion is an important thing in our lives, but at least for me, you know, I reserve it for the things that I would risk my life for, like family and country. Personally, I think it's the most overwrought term in the business vernacular, and it really applies, you know, if you're in the performing arts and maybe elementary education. But the bottom line is, I don't believe that your clients and the clients of the people on this call are really buying it. I think they value competency over an emotion. With respect to uniqueness, personality is the key thing, for it's the one thing that really makes us unique, along with our fingerprints and DNA. Again, the notion that we have a unique selling proposition is really a stretch. Again, your competitors are as competent as you for the most part, so the client wants to work with someone they like. You know, you needn't look beyond this to understand the importance of personality. This graph depicts where most people spend their time on legal websites, and that 30% portion is high because many of the people landing there is a result of a Google entry that'll return that link in the search. So they go there first, or have to go there, you know, to get to the bio. And, you know, in the bio area is where they're going to meet you. They really care about who's sitting next to them in the courtroom. You know, this is where the relationship really begins. And note that the bio is 6 times more important than practice area, and I think that's a significant thing. And then the tagline is really a slippery slope, because companies, and these are real brands, can pull off taglines effectively. What it is a very simple message, and they spend countless hours and millions of dollars to market test slogans. However, those in the professional services, you shouldn't attempt this, because what you're going to end up with is something probably silly or boring. You know, a plumber may be able to get away with it, but let's face it, not you. Your message is predicated on an outcome. And here are the 4 things that people are buying from any professional services firm, including consultants, large or small. They want to make money, they want to save money, they want to get their problem solved, or they want to get expert, actionable advice. That's it, just those 4 things. So the bottom line about personal branding, it's too internally focused, and obviously it's going to be because it's personal. There's too much attention, you know, on getting attention. Basically, it's really very heavy on sizzle but no substance. You know, it's largely a self-diagnostic process, often based on gut feel or what your friends and family think. You know, most of your prospects are high net worth, sophisticated people. Hyperbole isn't going to attract, and more often than not, it repels. Think about it. They're sharing things with you that they might not share with their spouse, their doctor. You know, it's that personal. So the dynamic biography is really a better approach, and the concept is simple and based on 2 discrete actions: show and grow. Let's consider the show, specifically the how, the what, and the why. But first, I'd like to ask the audience a question. Using the hands up icon, how many of you are solo practitioners? Okay, so let's see by show of hands about 3/4 of you are solo practitioners. Interesting. So let's consider the how, the what, and the why. First, the dynamic biography isn't a boring paragraph describing your practice area, where you may have graduated, in the thumbnail photo. And gosh, let's hope that that photo isn't one with the fake legal library in the background. It begins with a comprehensive assessment, a professional inventory based upon our copyrighted professional trademark methodology that identifies your strengths and the type of clients that you're going to be working best with. It also incorporates your background, work history, case history, and the results you've achieved serving clients. Our shorthand for this is knowing it, showing it, and doing it. And it's the foundation of the what, which is your new online persona. It's here that you're going to engage and showcase your capabilities like nothing else. You're going to get FaceTime with a potential client virtually. And this is the first step in the vetting process. The show part is all about FaceTime. FaceTime is the single most important rainmaking activity there is, period. And there are 4 steps or gates, if you will, that should be intuitive, but few people follow these steps. Let's review them. First, you have to be introduced to someone. Secondly, that introduction has to impress. Now, if these 2 gates are successfully passed through, then you earn the right to inform. Most people jump right to this 3rd step, inform. And why do they do that? Well, it's because FaceTime is so difficult to get using traditional rainmaking methods. You might only get 30 seconds in front of a prospective client and you feel like you've got to jump right in and sell them something. Finally, if that information is relevant and timely, then you get the opportunity to interact or engage. All things being equal, and as we've discussed, they are for the most part, we want to work with and engage people we like. Once you've established your credentials, your competence, then your personality is really the only differentiator. So here are the component parts of the dynamic biography, the show of the dynamic biography. So let's take a closer look. Okay, first you're going to tell a client attraction story. The client attraction story is a real story, not some regurgitation or a tired elevator speech, but it makes a personal connection with the viewer. So imagine that you called and asked for a 5-minute meeting to drop by and introduce yourself. Recall that we used to be able to get those meetings before technology like voicemail, email, and the lack of personal assistance built barriers to making that personal introduction and personal connection. For those of you that remember those meetings, did you start with inform, the 3rd step of the 4-step process? Did you give a sales pitch? Well, of course not. All you wanted to do was to impart competence, confidence, and likability. So the qualification statement is essentially telling the viewer the information that's currently perhaps in your static biography. This is the knowing it part of the professional trademark. Now, this personal statement's really important. It's your wheelhouse, as I like to say, to use a baseball analogy. What would your wheelhouse be? Okay, so if you're a family practice attorney, it might be representing the father's side in a divorce settlement, or if you're an estate planner, doing it for foreign nationals. And then this is the doing it component of the professional trademark. So the bio statement and work exhibits are the showing it part. And the biography can be delivered with an additional video along with case studies or tutorials on issues that are important to prospective clients. You can sort of think of it as a virtual interview of sorts. Finally, your civic and charitable pursuits are visually depicted, enabling the viewer to see at a glance what a fine person you are. Now, we offer certification that your credentials have been verified by a trusted third party. Finally, the call to action enables the viewer to take action immediately to contact you. The client demands a comfort level this comfort on a personal level, because really at the end of the day, you're in the relationship business. So the dynamic biography is incredibly flexible. We can host it or you can. And if you don't have a website currently, the dynamic biography can act as your website. The video components can be posted to your YouTube or any other similar channel if you have one. It is linked from any talent portal you may be using now, like LinkedIn or Facebook. And this is the most powerful part here. You include this click image to meet me, which we call a stamp, in the signature bar of every email you send. With this, your colleagues can simply forward this to introduce you to everybody, effectively pre-qualifying prospects for you. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Ty to talk about the second component of the dynamic biography, and it's an important component, how you grow revenue. Ty, take it away.
Thanks, Chuck. I'm going to talk about the second component of the dynamic biography. Chuck gave us a pretty comprehensive overview of the showing component, and I want to talk about the component related to growing and marketing. Although the dynamic biography can be used with any digital platform, as Chuck mentioned, it can be embedded in talent portals, emails, or within your website. The most effective use for incorporating this tool is within a social media platform. It lends itself to social media because primarily due to the bidirectional nature or in the multi-directional nature of social. Social is also conducive to those important components that Chuck mentioned related to personality and likability. And it's the only platform that really duplicates real life conversations for individuals as well as conversations for groups. It is definitely it has become the new paradigm for advertising. So if you're going to deliver a message, regardless of what that message is, it's paramount that that message is delivered in a social environment or within one of the various social platforms that exist today. So given that, what I'd like to do is provide you a little bit of an overview of the marketing landscape as it relates to some of the various methods of marketing that some of you may be currently using today. We have the traditional method, which most of you may be using today, or most of you may have tried, and that's essentially television, radio, and print ads. One of the challenges with this traditional method of marketing is that it's not dynamic in the sense that the method of communication is one direction or it goes into a single direction. It doesn't allow for communication of your audience or the recipients of your message back to you. One of the other challenges with this more traditional method of offline advertising, which is often referred to, is that you're at the bequest of the publishers in terms of when your message can be delivered. For example, with television, radio, and print, you essentially have to publish your message within the publisher's timeline, so it prevents you from getting the message out when you wanted to get it out. The second form of marketing or message or communication is the digital platform. Most of you may be familiar with this in terms of SEO, search engine rankings, or trying to get your site or your digital presence to the top of Google page one. One of the challenges with SEO or organic or search engine ranking is that it can often take anywhere from 3 to 6 months for those results to produce for those efforts to produce some page one results. And page one is really where you want to have your digital message land, because 98% of web traffic is actually, or search traffic, is actually searching on page one of those search results. And then there's also some limited targeting capabilities with search as well. Just because I'm searching for a keyword doesn't necessarily mean that I am looking for services or looking to retain services related to that keyword. So there are some targeting limitations that are associated with organic search. Now, on the other side of the digital platform or digital marketing is paid digital marketing. The results are much quicker. You don't have to wait for those 3 to 6 months for the SEO search engine link building process to take place. But again, you're still challenged with limited real estate. Everyone is targeting page one of the search engines, and that real estate is limited, which can make it cost prohibitive. Which leads us to sort of like the third evolution in the marketing landscape, and certainly the most advanced and sophisticated, and that's social media. For all those reasons that I just mentioned, it's extremely targeted. It has flexibility of working with various budgets, and it is extremely dynamic in the sense that it provides multi-directional methods of communication between you, the business owner, and your potential client or customer or prospect. But the real advantage is within its capabilities of targeting. I mean, imagine if you're a wealth advisor or financial advisor. Social provides you the ability of, just to give you an example, I can identify individuals within a certain income bracket, that have a certain amount of net worth, that live within a certain geography, that works within certain industries with certain job titles, and we can target those individuals for messaging or marketing. So social provides an extreme level of targeting capabilities, and those targeting capabilities provide additional value to social, above and beyond it being a dynamic platform for conversational engagement. I think the true value in social is really in its ability to target down to extreme levels. So when used effectively, social should produce much more than just likes or friends. I know there are agencies or organizations out there that focus on generating and expanding your social network, but social should be used for much more than that. And its targeting capabilities truly lends itself to a revenue generating customer acquisition model. And what I want to talk about on this slide is, when developing a social strategy, revenue generation must be the end game. That is an absolute must. Each step must lead to a revenue conversion, and our game plan allows you to create a social sales funnel, which is a very different proposition than what you may hear from other social media strategists. First, what we do is we use the detailed demographic and behavioral data that I talked to on the previous slide to build a custom audience that matches your ideal customer. Then we're going to create messaging, and this is important because this really ties the grow component to the show component. When Chuck was talking about the show component and the how of the dynamic biography, the people, platform, and performance, this is where we tie that in. So we create messaging around those components, and these are key components of your online persona. These are the things that are part of that prospect action trigger. And this is our methodology to the how. So for example, we're going to incorporate messaging related to the people component of the how. So we will include messaging or ad copy around appealing to the right demographic group that we're trying to target. Messaging around the platform, i.e. your credentials. We're going to create messaging around performance or case studies. And the beautiful thing about using social for this platform is we can create a series of messages and look at which message is performing and sort of adjust accordingly, or which message is not performing as well and adjust accordingly. Next, we're going to generate a specific call to action. um, whether it be an email, a phone call, or a pre-qualification form. We're going to create a platform and a process where we can manage and measure and report the specific call to actions that you're requiring from your prospects. Those prospects that did not respond to the original message, we will deploy a process called retargeting. Retargeting is essentially where we place a pixel on those individuals that come to your site but do not respond. And that's a fancy way of saying we have the ability to track them as they move throughout various places of the web, and that gives us the ability to remessage these customers, certainly impacting and driving a higher conversion rate. For those individuals that do respond, we move them into our conversion funnel where we create and send a series of automated messages over a period, automated value added messages over a period of time that move these prospects or move these individuals from prospect to actual paying client. So a very comprehensive process that we use to grow or get as many eyes on your dynamic biography as possible. So now that we've discussed the components related to growing, I want to provide you a recap and a summary of some of the deliverables you should expect. And you can see here we've categorized them into the two components of the system: the show component, which Chuck has spoke to, and the grow component, which I just covered. One thing I do want to touch on regarding, and I really want to underscore regarding the show component, is that it's important that you understand that your online persona is paramount to everything that you do. Chuck has a saying often that it's more important than what you wear when you actually walk out of the house. And in today's digital ether, everyone can see it. So it is definitely, absolutely that important. And I say that because given that we're going to provide an extremely high level of video production around this process, video and digital production around this process, the caliber of resources and the time that we're going to invest in creating the show component is going to be significant. And in regards to the grow component, likewise for the grow component, how you present yourself is just as important as to who you're presenting yourself to and how you're managing the engagement of those people that you're presenting yourself to. So two very important aspects that I just wanted to summarize and provide you sort of a visual recap in terms of the deliverables that you should expect. If you look at those 12 steps that we just reviewed on the deliverable slide, the previous slide, they all fall into these major categories or these major phases. On average, it takes our team about 130 hours annually to complete this process from end to end. And that time also includes the monthly man hours related to optimizing social traffic, making sure we have resources available for support questions and any reporting or monitoring that will certainly be expected during this process. The average marketing consultant is going to bill a project this intensive out at about $150 an hour. I believe it's probably even going to come in certainly north of that. And what we did is we benchmarked the rates of some well-respected internet marketing consultants, and you can see here their rates are coming in certainly north of that. Plus, these individuals and probably a vast majority of marketing consultants won't have the area of expertise or the area of specialty all under a single roof. They may not have the social media and rainmaking strategy specifically for solo practitioners. that expertise within their organization. It's very likely they won't have the resources available to create the digital composition and integration to produce something even similar to the dynamic biography, which means they'll probably have to outsource these major components, even driving cost even significantly higher than what you see here. We've created two offerings that we feel are at a very attractive price point. Our first offering, which is the gold version of the dynamic biography, this includes a professional assessment and market analysis that will help us craft the right client attraction message that we talked about. This process is very comprehensive and uses scientific methodology that allows us to produce a highly effective professional statement and a biographical brief for your client attraction video. We're also going to create 3 additional supporting videos and collateral. The revenue building social media marketing program focused on customer acquisition, with customer acquisition and revenue as the end game, not likes or an expansion of your social network. And we're going to deliver this at a price point just under $3,000 and $300 a month. Our upgraded plan, which is the platinum version, includes everything that I've highlighted in the gold version. Plus, you'll receive 4 additional video messages or video communique to your existing contact list. We'll incorporate the credential verification process that Chuck highlighted in the showing component. And we're going to also include a Twitter campaign in addition to the Facebook campaign, essentially giving you double the rainmaking efforts without doubling your cost. So a very, very attractive offering. And we've priced this offering at just under $4,000 with a monthly recurring fee of $500 a month.
Thanks, Ty. I think those are pretty compelling offers. However, if you act in the next 48 hours, we'll provide 4 additional communique videos for free. Now, with these communique videos, we will put these in our video email engine and provide 4 more blasts, if you will, to your contact list. So effectively, you will have 8 video email messages to your contact list over the next year. 1 every 2 months, or at whatever frequency you feel is necessary. So we want to thank you for being on the call today. Our website is thedynamicbiography.com, and our telephone number is 866-991-4825. So in closing, we'll go to Q&A here in a minute, but what the dynamic biography combines are the 2 most powerful tools in your rainmaking toolkit. The first is an online presence that's unlike any other, that goes to the personal connection with the client that's so critical. You're going to be able to really impart that you're the best person for the job because you're creating that personal connection. And then the second part, obviously, social media is the new advertising paradigm. That media decision is the most important marketing decision you're going to make. So that said, again, this is our contact information, and let's start with some questions and answers here. We've got a number of them. Okay, great. So we have Sam in Texas, and Sam wants to know, what does search engine optimization have to do with this, or what is I think if I can paraphrase your question, you want to know how the dynamic biography works with search engine optimization. Let me hand that off to Ty real quick.
So great question. SEO is definitely an effective method for digital marketing. One of the challenges, as I mentioned in my previous slide with SEO, is that it does not allow you to target in the way that you really need to, especially from a customer acquisition standpoint. versus social media targeting and a lot of the capabilities you have in social media marketing. You can really target those customers based on demographic and behavioral profile that are actually looking to do business with you.
Thanks, Ty. Okay, so Catherine in Los Angeles says, why don't I just do this myself and post it on Facebook? Okay, well, that's a good question. Yeah, sure, you can probably do that. I can paint my own house too. Probably not going to like the results. Yeah, and then alternatively, if I need a will, I can go to LegalZoom. It really comes down to, getting, professional help. It's obviously the reason all of you guys are in business, is you don't want clients that are, cutting corners, and you don't want to cut corners on what's really your most important, marketing tool. Here's the other thing too. We're really in the business of persuasion. And if you were to, essentially talk about your capabilities, the likelihood is that you're going to talk above your ideal client's head. And that's, a critically important aspect of the messaging and the languaging. You've got to get the messaging and the languaging right. And that's really our stock and trade, is to take your story, crystallize it down to a level that's widely understandable to whatever your specific market might be. Now, it might be high net worth individuals, or it might be people that might need a criminal attorney, right? So what we do is apply the science of persuasion and produce videos that are of the highest quality in a studio, with teleprompter and all of the tools that professional broadcasters use. So if you think about it as a professional broadcasting approach, coupled with the languaging that is ideally suited for your specific prospect, that's what we're going to do. So, doing it on your own, obviously you can, but I don't think it's advisable. Great. The next question comes from Tram in Seattle, Washington. Hope you're staying dry up there, Tram. He was wondering about LinkedIn and how LinkedIn seems to be the preferred portal of business, where Facebook is more family and friends. So, Ty, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll take that question. The reality is unless you are a corporate attorney, you're really in a B2C servicing model, and the vast majority of consumers by far are on Facebook. LinkedIn does provide some good information and resources in terms of directory listing. But if you're trying to really reach out to consumers, directly to consumers of your service, you really want to be have a presence on Facebook and Twitter. And Facebook and Twitter also allows those additional layers of demographic and behavioral profiling that's just simply not available on LinkedIn. I've actually got a question I'd like to throw out to the group. I'd like to get some feedback from you guys. What's your biggest rainmaking frustration? So some of the biggest challenges you have in terms of rainmaking for your practice. Looks like Connie from Colorado Springs says that she spends a lot of time attending these networking events, and it doesn't seem to yield the clients that she's actually looking for her practice.
Yeah, that's not an uncommon situation. We've all been to a lot of these networking events, be it Chamber of Commerce or whatever, and oftentimes it feels like the relationship equivalent of a drive-by shooting. I think it's especially acute at trade shows too, where you've got all the noise in the room and the visual distractions. So at a lot of these events, you try to meet as many people as you can. They're all wanting to meet as many people as they can, and the tendency is to jump to that third step we talked about. Recall introduction, impress, inform, and interact, where you jump right to inform and either give a tired elevator speech or something that sounds really, really salesy. So with a dynamic biography, because of its nature, you can introduce yourself to literally thousands of people worldwide without regard to time or anything else or geographical constraints. And again, for those that are in the financial services segments particularly, compliance is really a huge issue. So you want to make sure that your message is consistent and the same and compliant every time. So I understand your frustration there, Connie. It's a big time waster when you consider, driving to the event, hoping that the event is well attended. Oftentimes, they're not. It's just depends. So it's one of those rainmaking challenges that we feel the dynamic biography is well suited to overcome. Okay, so Bill in Orlando asked about the 130 hours of effort. Yeah, I'll address that. Much of that time is spent monthly in terms of doing the analysis and data scrubbing on the grow part of the two-part value proposition that we've got. So there's a fair amount of time up front in terms of the languaging, the messaging, obviously getting you into the studio, getting all the clips shot, getting the editing done appropriately, etc. But a good amount of that time is ongoing, marketing support. So it's not like we're, just doing something one shot and, that's it. So it's a constant iterative process of the targeting, retargeting, and fine-tuning the data, which will grow the prospect base. So thanks for that question, Bill. Let's see, Jennifer in Omaha. I think this is a good question here. She said, I'm in a fairly small market. So how do you deal with the, I'm paraphrasing here, how would you deal with several of your customers being somewhat in the same niche in a small market? That's a very good question. Ty, why don't you address that?
So if we find ourselves in a situation where we have multiple clients in a small market, we have the ability to segment the targeted group of prospects or customers in a way where we can ensure there's no cross-pollination. But what I also will say is that the demographic and behavioral data presents a large enough pool where I don't foresee that being an issue. But if that does become an issue, we can certainly segment it where we don't have sort of like a cross-pollination between two clients operating in the same market.
And more I've seen statistics where, particularly among general counsels that are looking to retain services, they don't necessarily have to be in the same geographical area either. A lot of work can get done remotely, so that's another real advantage of the web, and just some of the technology tools that we've got today has created a wider opportunity in the legal space. Great questions. Okay, well, we'd like to wrap it up at this point. Everyone's time is valuable, obviously, and we want to heartily thank everybody that made the call today. And again, my name is Chuck Welnick, and joined by Ty Johnson. We're the principals of the dynamicbiography.com. Again, our contact information is on the screen, and we really look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much for attending, everyone. Have a good evening.